Now, will interest rates start to drop sooner rather than later? Some experts suggesting the first rate cut could come as early as April. I heard that on the radio yesterday. Joining me is former Minister in the Howard Government and Bondi Partner Senior Advisor Peter McGauran. How are you, Pete?
Excellent, thanks, Tim.
What do you reckon? GDP numbers this week? Are things going to happen a little quicker with rate cuts?
Quite likely. The GDP numbers are disastrous, where the December economic output only grew by December quarter only grew by 0.2%, which gives us an annualised GDP growth rate of 1.5%. And you've got to go back to 2010 for the economy to be growing by such a small amount. So last year it was 2.5%. We're in trouble, Tim. There's no question. Now, that's going to increase unemployment. It'll increase pressures on wages. So the Reserve Bank's going to have to balance the fight against inflation with the need to give business some investment incentives, because that's the problem. And households are not spending. The reason the GDP is collapsing is because households are not spending. They can't spend.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because they only have the one tool. They only have the one tool to try and get it under control. And obviously it makes a sitting government nervous. As you mentioned late last year, cost of living, all these things are right in the front of their minds.
Correct. We wouldn't even have a 1.5% GDP growth rate, Tim, except for government spending. That's the bulk of the
migration, probably, too.
And migration. If it weren't for migration, we would be technically in a recession under one measure, which is per head output. So, look, we've got problems ahead. It's going to be a tough year. Small business is finding it hard. Business is not investing, and our productivity levels are low, which is the individual work contribution of each person. I'm sorry, but the government economic framework is not working because they give everything to the unions. They're not giving anything to small business. The taxation system penalises the successful. This country is very complacent, and we're going to now feel the effects of it.
Yeah, some challenges, but I think a lot of people are really hoping for rate cuts. Now, what about last week's by-election? What do you make of it?
Look, the Liberals wanted to do better, there's no question, because of all the reasons we've just spoken about, that people would be feeling the cost of living pressures. But it was a respectable swing to them of 4%. And remember, the government took Aston, a Liberal seat, in a by-election only 12 months ago in Melbourne from the Liberals. So in the tough, slow, trench warfare slog of opposition, this was a morale booster to the opposition, but at the same time, the government is entitled to think that their strategies are generally working.
Super Tuesday in the United States, has anything changed?
Only that the momentum is with Trump and the size of his victory. The bookmakers now have him in front as favourite. The polls are pretty level pegging with Biden. It's anybody's contest.